हाय फ्रेंड, गुड मॉर्निंग। आज मैं जॉब से रिलेटेड एक्टिविटीज़ पे ये चर्चा कर रहा हूँ कि जॉब का नो डाउट कि मार्केट में एक समस्या तो है। आज के मार्केट में जॉब का एक बहुत बड़ा समस्या है। इवन जो टेक्निकल है उसके लिए भी बड़ी एक चैलेंज हो रही है। मैंने तो जो देखा है कि बीटेक एमटेक करने के बाद भी लोगों को प्लेसमेंट नहीं मिल रहा है। बीटेक कर लिया है, एमटेक कर लिया है, एमबीए कर लिया है, तो जॉब नहीं मिल रही है। ये एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज है। अब जब उसके तय में आप जाओगे तो क्वालिटी की सबसे बड़ी बात आ जाती है कि एजुकेशन में आज के डेट में क्वालिटी की क्या कमी आ रही है। मैं जस्ट अभी एक एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ कि ये गाजियाबाद में एक बहुत बड़ी कॉलेज है और बीटेक और डिग्री कॉलेज है। वो बीटेक के बच्चे का फाइनल ईयर था और फाइनल ईयर के बच्चे को मैंने पूछा कि क्या आप लोगों की क्या पढ़ाई हो रही है, तो बोला सर क्या पढ़ाई नॉर्मल जो बेसिक कोर्सेज है वो कोर्स करवाया जा रहा है। मैंने बोला कोर्स तो करवाया जा रहा है बट है क्या कोर्स पे, क्या क्या कोई लैंग्वेज पढ़ाया है, कौन सा लैंग्वेज में आप लोगों को एक्सपर्टीज कराया जा रहा है, कोई लैंग्वेज आपने रखा होगा, कोई लैंग्वेज की नॉलेज। बोला सर कुछ नहीं, लैंग्वेज वगैरह तो कुछ भी नहीं ऐसा पढ़ाया जा रहा है, बस एक बेसिक चीज़ बेसिक जानकारी दी जा रही है। मैंने बोला कौन सा लैंग्वेज पढ़ाया जा रहा है। इवन वो दोनों गर्ल्स थी और दोनों गर्ल्स ने कोई लैंग्वेज का नाम नहीं बताने की, डिटेल बताने की तो बात छोड़ दो, वो कोई किसी भी लैंग्वेज का नाम नहीं लिया कि मैं सी पढ़ रहा हूँ, ये पढ़ रहा हूँ क्या, या आपका .NET पढ़ रहा हूँ। किसी भी लैंग्वेज का नाम नहीं ले पाया कि हाँ हम लोग जो सर कर रहे हैं वो अपने लेवल पे ही तैयारी करते हैं। तो मैं बड़ा सरप्राइज हुआ कि 10 लाख 15 लाख 18 लाख रुपए की फीस वाले कॉलेज के बच्चे का ये स्टेटिक पोजीशन है कि आज के डेट में उसको लैंग्वेज की जानकारी नहीं है। अब यही बच्चा जब मार्केट में जाएगा तो इसकी क्या वैल्यूशन रह जाएगी, क्योंकि जो बीटेक के बच्चे को लैंग्वेज के बारे में नहीं पता है कि कंप्यूटर साइंस से यदि वो डिग्री कर रही है और कंप्यूटर साइंस से डिग्री करने के बाद उसको लैंग्वेज के बारे में नहीं पता कि क्या लैंग्वेज है, क्या लैंग्वेज हमें पढ़ाया जा रहा है। सर लैंग्वेज तो कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ाया जा रहा है। अब यहीं से चैलेंज स्टार्ट होता है कि यदि बंदे के पास में परफेक्शन है, नो डाउट कि मार्केट में चैलेंज तो है, लेकिन हाँ इफिशिएंट जो बच्चा है वो इफिशिएंट बच्चे जॉब ले लेते हैं। इवन अच्छे कंपनी जो प्लेसमेंट के लिए आती है तो स्टार्टिंग के टाइम पे ही आपका 5%, 4%, 2% जो बच्चे होते हैं, टैलेंटेड जो बच्चा होता है उसको पिक कर लेता है, जिसको कुछ समझ भी होती है और जिसमें लगता है कि नहीं ये लेबोरियस है और ये कर लेगा। बाकी के जो 90% बच्चे हैं वो स्ट्रगल करता रह जाता है। अच्छा, आजकल के बच्चे में एक्सपेक्टेशन की जहाँ तक बात है, एक्सपेक्टेशन बहुत बड़ी है। ये भी एक चैलेंज है कि मैंने तो बीटेक कर लिया जी, मेरे 50,000 से या 1 लाख रुपए से हमारी सैलरी कम क्या होगी। मैंने तो कंप्यूटर साइंस से डिग्री किया है, बीटेक कर लिया, अब मेरी 50,000 से सैलरी क्या कम होगी। जबकि उसको ये नहीं पता है कि हमें क्या पता है और क्या नहीं पता है, मार्केट में क्या चीज़ चल रहा है। तो ये भी एक चैलेंज है कि एक्सपेक्टेशन जो है और मार्केट में उसकी फुलफिलमेंट नहीं हो पाती है, तो बच्चे वो स्ट्रगल करता है, बच्चे फाइट करता है, 6 महीने साल भर ये इधर उधर घूमता है। उसके बाद वो कहता है कि यार जॉब नहीं मिलने वाली है, चलो यार जॉब से इससे काम नहीं होगा। क्योंकि आपने एजुकेशन के बाद, डिग्री के बाद यदि साल 2 साल भी यदि आपने स्किप किया, जॉब नहीं किया, तो फिर आगे जाकर के और वो धीरे धीरे चैलेंज बढ़ता चला जाएगा। इसलिए अंबिका फाउंडेशन हम लोगों का जो टारगेट है, हम लोग जो यदि बंदे को ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, जिस बच्चे को भी ट्रेनिंग देते हैं, उस ट्रेनिंग में फर्स्ट डे से ही मतलब इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग पे ही फोकस किया जाता है। इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग, कॉर्पोरेट ट्रेनिंग और इंस्टीट्यूशनल ट्रेनिंग। जो ट्रेनिंग ये होती है कि मार्केट में जो डिमांड है, यदि किसी कंपनी में हायर करता है उसको और उसकी जो प्रोफाइल है, उस प्रोफाइल से रिलेटेड क्या काम उसको करना है, वही चीज़ को फोकस किया जाता है। तो जो मार्केट की डिमांड है, वो डिमांड और जो इंस्टीट्यूट में पढ़ाया जाता है, यहाँ बहुत बड़ा गैप है। ये जो मिसमैच हो रही है, ये मिसमैच ही एक बहुत बड़ा रीज़न है कि बच्चे को डिग्री करने के बाद भी, अब बताया कि जो सिंपल ग्रेजुएट है उसको कहाँ से मिलेगी। जो सिंपल ग्रेजुएट है उसने इंटरनेट चलाना सीख लिया, इंटरनेट एक्सप्लोरर चला लेता है, इंटरनेट चला लेता है, ब्राउजिंग कर लेता है, तो उससे तो जॉब नहीं मिलेगी। मेल कर लेता है, उससे तो जॉब नहीं मिलेगी। वो तो एक बहुत बड़ी बेसिक चीज़ है कि कोई कंपनी में कोई भी बंदा कर सकता है। तो ये नॉन टेक्निकल की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं टेक्निकल की बात कर रहा हूँ कि टेक्निकल नॉलेज, टेक्निकल डिग्री होने के बाद भी बच्चे संघर्ष कर रहा है। तो अंबिका फाउंडेशन आज के डेट में यदि ट्रेनिंग जिस टाइप की दे रही है, उसमें क्या है कि जॉब ओरिएंटेड कोर्स हम लोग करवाते हैं और बेसिक सिर्फ 3 महीने से स्टार्ट होती है। करने के वाले तो 2-2 साल से कर रहे हैं, बट 3 महीने से 3 महीने का ही कोर्स में बच्चे 25,000, 30,000, 40,000 का लाइक हो जाता है। इवन हमारे पास तो बहुत सारे बच्चे ऐसे भी हैं जो जॉब कर रहे हैं। अब जैसे प्रोडक्शन प्लानिंग के बच्चे हैं, वो प्रोडक्शन प्लानिंग में काम कर रहा है, बट उसको ईआरपी का, एसएपी का नॉलेज नहीं है, मैनुअल एक्टिविटीज कर रहा है। और हमारे पास आकर के ईआरपी का, एसएपी के ट्रेनिंग लेकर के वहाँ पे परफेक्शन दिखाया है कि सर पहले जो हम काम करते थे और आज जो काम कर रहे हैं, दोनों में बहुत का फर्क आ गया। तो हम लोग जो ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं वो जस्ट कोई कंप्यूटर की कोर्स नहीं है, कोई डिग्री नहीं है। सिर्फ हमारे पास जो ट्रेनिंग होती है, हम लोग इंडस्ट्रियल ट्रेनिंग पे ही फोकस करते हैं कि मार्केट की रिक्वायरमेंट को हम मैच करें। तो ये जो गैप है, ये इंस्टीट्यूट में और मार्केट की डिमांड में, ये गैप को हम लोग खत्म कर रहे हैं। हम लोगों का मेन फोकस ये होता है। अब जैसे ट्रेनिंग की हम लोग, जैसे एसएपी की आज के डेट में मार्केट में बहुत अच्छा डिमांड है, क्योंकि मिड लेवल की कंपनी, पहले तो जो बड़ी कंपनी थी जिसका 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 करोड़ का टर्नओवर था, वही कंपनी अफोर्ड कर पाती थी एसएपी को। बट आज के डेट में तो 500-400 करोड़ की टर्नओवर वाली कंपनी एसएपी वगैरह ले रही है। तो एसएपी का मार्केट में डिमांड होने के कारण अब हम लोग जो एसएपी की ट्रेनिंग प्रोवाइड करते हैं, क्योंकि एसएपी की ट्रेनिंग से पहले एक ही बार में यदि एसएपी की ट्रेनिंग भी दे देते हैं तो वो भी वहाँ पे वो पकड़ना, पिक करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है। तो हम लोग पहले ईआरपी को यूज टू करते हैं, कि ईआरपी से फैमिलियर करते हैं, कि ईआरपी को पहले देखो कि बेसिक क्या क्या एक्टिविटीज होती है, उसके बाद हम लोग एसएपी के मॉड्यूल में ले जाते हैं। अब उसी का ब्रीफ मैं आपको, हमारी जो टीम के मेंबर हैं वो आपको प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं। थैंक यू सो मच।
Let's look at profit center master data. Profit centers are internal areas of the company, mainly used for management oriented reporting. So this means these profit center reports you only use internally within the company. You should not expose your profit center reports outside of your company, because that contains many secrets like how profitability are your regions or your products and so on. So profit center reports, usually it's done for a unit of an organization. For example, if you are in a supermarket chain and you have many different branches across your country, each of your branch can be created as a profit center. Or you can, if you're a manufacturing company and you produce different type of vehicles, each of those type of vehicles, for example bikes, cars, vans and trucks, can be created as a profit center. The main idea of having a profit center is to have its own internal financial statements. Company code is your top level entity, which you create for your entire company, a financial statement, a balance sheet statement, an income statement, and you release to the public or external auditors. But profit center is a more detailed level and is internally within the organization, and you do that to have a more detailed level from the company code, to have for different regional areas or for different product lines, so you can see how profitable are those products. Now this, you can have a individual balance sheet and an income statement for each profit center. This is because if you have activated new GL accounting. Now most of the organizations have activated new GL accounting, that is more towards the FI module. Profits, because of that option, you will be able to have a full statement for your profit centers for balance sheet and P&L. Now just like the word profit actually means revenue minus expenses or your costs equals profit. So in your profit center, the main thing is to see your revenues and expenses, and you need to know how these are flowing into profit centers. For example, when you raise a sales order, in the sales order you will be mentioning what material you're going to sell, and in the material master data you need to mention the profit center. So at the time of giving the sales order to the customer, and when it goes through the goods issue process and then the billing process, automatically the revenue will flow through the profit center, because you have mentioned the material inside the sales order. Of course, if you don't mention any material inside sales order, and if you just directly want to use the sales order and sell an item to the customers, you can also directly input the profit center in the sales order. So that's how usually the revenues flow into profit center. Of course, you have the standard FI transaction for customer postings. You can use the FB70 transaction code. There also you can specify a revenue GL account and specify a profit center at the time of issuing this invoice to the customer. So those are many ways how revenues can flow to the system to a profit center. Expenses usually flow via a cost object. All your expense accounts, GL accounts, are created as cost element accounts, and when you make postings against a cost center or an internal order, in those cost centers or internal orders or any other type of cost object, in their master data you will always have a field called profit center. And once you enter the profit center in their master data, any postings made to those particular cost centers or internal orders, automatically the value gets updated to profit center as well. So you get the expenses also flowing in, you get the revenues flowing in, so you'll have a complete. You can also create your own ones. There are also the new GL reports which also links the financial accounting as with the management accounting. At the same time you can see it by profit center as well. So with all these type of reports, you can get a complete set of balance sheet and P&L statement for your profit center. The profit center is maintained at the controlling area level. Remember we discussed earlier in the organizational units, controlling area is like an umbrella for the CO module, where all the cost objects of the CO module lies within the controlling area. So we are the GL accounts, and that is also linked by cost elements, and there's also another group called accounts. Through all this, the values are flowing to the profit center. The profit center is common both the CO module as well as to the FI module. Remember, all entry postings to profit centers are all statistical. We discussed earlier in our presentation with cost center and internal orders that there are statistical type of postings and real type of postings. Well, with regard to all postings made to profit centers, is always statistical postings. Now, profit centers, you can decide how you want to define your company's profit center. It's entirely up to the organization to do. There is no right or wrong method. It can be at product level. Now in this example I have given bikes, cars, vans, trucks at different type of product levels. You can have individual profit centers for this. You can have it at regional level also, different state wise you can have, or different location wise you can have, different branch wise. For example, the supermarket chain I mentioned, each different supermarket branch you can have it as your own profit center. Functional level, for example, if you are a service industry and you have different type of functions giving, if you are like example legal consultancy firm and you have different type of services, legal advice services, conveyancing services, migration assistance services, court cases and other relevant type of services, all those different type of functions, you can create them as your own profit center. So anything which you want to see the profit and analyze further and have your own individual balance sheet and P&L statement for that, you can create them as your profit center. Let's look at more properties of the profit center. The profit center master data details you enter in the system is time dependent. That means you give from this particular information you enter in the master data, the most important thing is the name, description, the person responsible, and all those information is time dependent. So you can say this is valid from 2016 to 2018. And let's say 2018 a different person is going to be in charge of that profit center, then you can put a different person's name in the person responsible field, and you can give a different set of time dependent a time range for that particular profit center master data. So the ID of the profit center remains the same, the profit center ID remains the same, but all the other information you can change, and for different analysis period you'll be able to have different views. By default, the profit center, when you create in the master data, it will be valid for all company codes. So if you have enabled cross company code controlling and you have more than one company code assigned to your controlling area, then when you create the profit center, all the company codes can use that profit center. But if you only want to specify this company code uses this profit center, this other company code uses another profit center, then you can freely go and deselect those company codes which do not belong to your profit center. Now, prior to new GL concept of SAP, new GL accounting concept of SAP, we used to create a dummy profit center in the system. Now this dummy profit center means, just like the word dummy, it's like a profit center in the system which takes all the values when you directly cannot find which profit center to assign. For example, you are going to suddenly you had a posting to make, but you do not know which profit center to post it to. So then you can just leave it blank and leave the profit center field blank and make the entries, and system will post those entries to the dummy profit center. And later you can allocate the end of the month, use the values in the dummy profit center and allocate to the correct product profit center. So we previously, before new GL accounting, we used to go and create a dummy profit center in the system. But now most of the companies are using new GL accounting, so you do not have to go and create this dummy profit center before. But just for information purposes, there was something called a dummy profit center. It's still available in the system. If you want, you can go and create a dummy profit center, but it's highly recommended not to do so, because with new GL accounting you have activated document splitting. So the main purpose of document splitting is actually at the time of entry, if the profit center is not found in the offsetting entry, it will look at if the profit center is not found for a balance sheet account, then what it will do is it will check the other offsetting entry, and if it finds the profit center in that particular entry, it will fill up the balance sheet entry with the correct profit center. This is a bit more technical, but if you have gone through the FI certification course or FI savvy training, in that we had a separate section called document splitting. In that I have explained more in detail about profit center accounting and document splitting, and how document splitting works with profit center accounting and segments, and what's the use of document splitting and all the relevant configurations for document splitting. Let's look at business areas, profit centers and segments and how they interact with each other. In this presentation, we'll be looking at more towards profit center and segments. Business areas is not much used these days, but profit center and segments is quite frequently used. And we'll also cover business area in more detail in financial accounting. Nevertheless, in this diagram, I have put business area also, so you can see how they all link with each other. Now, for example, imagine that we are an automotive company and we produce different type of vehicles. So I've specified my two main business areas as vehicles and spare parts. So we produce vehicles and we also produce some spare parts. So those two are my business areas. Now, profit centers, I divide the profit centers for different type of products. So vehicles, we produce cars, bikes, vans and trucks. So those four are my profit centers. Now I will also have to have another profit center called a common profit center or a general profit center or an administration profit center. Now there are many common costs involved for all these four type of vehicles. For example, your CEO salary or CFO salary, or all those involved in your admin division or IT division or finance division, HR division, all those who are not directly working for these product lines, their costs need to get captured in a profit center. So for that, we will have a separate profit center called admin, or you can call it general, or even can call it as common profit center. And then later you can take all the costs from that common profit center and allocate to this. That will be done usually via cost center allocation cycles. So in the profit center master data, you can specify to which segment it belongs to. So you can think of a segment as a high level to a profit center, and segments you can in the profit center master data. For example, the cars and bikes profit center master data, I can specify the light vehicles as a segment. So then I can have a reporting based on segments as well, because for some countries they would want a segment wise reporting, which means that you probably have to give in this example how well you have done for your light vehicle segment. So what's your profitability of a light vehicle segment and your heavy vehicle segment. You don't have to go and give the individually how you are doing for cars and bikes, vans and trucks, but at a high level you might have to specify how well your company is doing. That means giving out a balance sheet and P&L statement at a high level for segment levels. So I have divided my four profit centers into two different segments, light vehicles and heavy vehicles. Now let's go and configure this in the system, so we'll have a better understanding of how they all click with each other. Now let's look at defining profit centers. To define the profit center, first you must define the standard hierarchy for profit center. Standard hierarchy is something like a structure defining what's the top node, then the next level node. Similarly, how you do it for cost centers, in profit centers also you have to define a standard hierarchy. So under this hierarchy only all the profit centers will be listed. So for example, to define the standard hierarchy, the SAP menu path is under controlling, because profit center is part of the CO module, so it's under controlling, basic settings, and you come to controlling area settings, maintain controlling area settings. The short transaction code for this is 0KE5. I'm going to execute this. Okay. So for my controlling area Z000, if you do not, sometimes you might get a pop-up menu saying mention the controlling area, then you can directly enter your controlling area. And you need to enter your profit center hierarchy. So I'm going to give it an ID called MNM, just to give one ID. And you can see profit center local currency type. So I'm going to choose a currency type. Just going to use a controlling area currency. So 20, I'm going to mention that. Local currency is AUD. Other things you can just leave it as it is and save the transaction. Now we have created the profit center hierarchy. Now you can go and create the profit centers. So to create them, you can just come to the master data of the profit center. Define standard hierarchy, you can go there also. Now you have already specified the standard hierarchy MNM. Now it automatically pops up because you have specified in the previous screen. And from here you can start lower level and you can add more levels over here. So let's just click on that. You can click on lower level and put in a sub node and then another node and so on. Now rather than creating through this transaction, I like to do it through the normal SAP menu. So I'm just going to exit out this because that one is more user friendly. So I'm going to open a new session. You can also go to here, define profit center and create as well, but I'll show you the SAP menu method, accounting. So you go to controlling, profit center accounting, master data, standard hierarchy, and change. Because you have already created the standard hierarchy, now you're going to change the standard hierarchy. This is just to go and enter the profit centers. Of course, you can go here under profit center, individual processing and create as well. But I'm just going to go under this method and show you KCH5N. And then I'm going to choose my standard hierarchy, set MNM. That will bring you to this screen. So this will give you the standard hierarchy. The standard hierarchy node is already there. So I'm just going to close this screen over here for now. Right click here, and here itself I can create some profit center groups. So I'm going to create a group over here. I'm just going to call that group vehicles. And the top group is already getting displayed. So group name I'm going to give, so I'm just going to call it probably P01. I'm just going to call it as vehicles. So you can give any name over there. Now this you can give it alphanumeric also if you want. Press enter. And so that group has been created. Now under that I'm going to create another. Now under this I'm going to create some profit centers. So I'm just going to call create profit center. Right click underneath this node, and here I'm going to give it an ID. So here I have to give an ID. I'm just going to call it P0101, and I'm going to say all the way from 0101 2000. I'm going to call this cars. Just give it up. Imagine I'm an automobile company, so I'm going to have many different profit centers. So one of the profit centers is cars. I can give a person responsible also, someone in charge. Now here inside the profit center I can specify a segment. I'm not going to do that at the moment. Company codes. Now many company codes can use the same profit centers. So if you are linked many company codes inside the controlling area, you can decide which are the company codes are going to use that profit center. Now I have only linked one company code to my controlling area, so only that is appearing. But if I have many other company codes coming in, and you can decide which other company codes can use this profit center by ticking the relevant options. And save. So just before you save, unlike cost centers and other objects, for profit centers, whenever you create a profit center, you need to activate it. So you have to go and click this matchstick, which is a flashing matchstick icon. So unless you activate it, the information will only be saved, it will not be active. That's why you're getting an activation status as red over here. So I'm going to activate it. At the time you activate it, automatically it gets saved as well. And you'll get a pop-up menu like this. Press OK, activate. Just selecting to activate this profit center. And you can see now the profit center, the status has become green. So activation has been occurred, and the profit center is now in green status. That means it's active. You can just save and exit the transaction. And that's how you create a profit center in the system. Many ways of creating. In the SAP menu or in the configuration menu, you can create a profit center. You can also go under here, individual processing, and create as well. And you can change and display the profit centers. Now let's look at setting a default profit center. So why you would need a default profit center is sometimes the system, if it cannot directly post to a related product profit center or any other type of profit center functions you have specified, then you need to post to a default some kind of another profit center. That's why we call it as a default profit center. So how you might have foreign exchange rate differences or any other type of exchange rate differences or any other revaluations, any other asset gain or loss accounts, all this type of different accounts where you cannot directly specify a profit center. That means you cannot directly say this belongs to a car's profit center, this belongs to a truck's profit center. Example, I mentioned earlier, your CEO salary, your CFO salary, or your IT department salary, or your company promotion which you have done through a website or through another media like a TV advertisement and so on, which does not specifically belong to a particular product line, but you need to assign to some profit center, which is usually your common or general profit center. Then you need to assign those expense accounts or cost elements to a default profit center. So you can assign this via cost elements. There's another transaction code for that, but the most frequent method we use is via the GL accounts, because through the GL account you can assign for both balance sheet accounts and your P&L accounts. So the short transaction code for this is FAGL3KEH. This move towards the FI module. So I'm just going to briefly quickly show you how to do that. And this is the SPRO, that is your IMG menu path. Now if there's no profit center mentioned in the system, so that's at the time of entry, if there is no profit center mentioned, or it could not pick up from any of the cost objects only, system will go inside this table and derive the common profit center. You also have option to do this via the document splitting configuration method. So in the document splitting configuration path, you have an option that at times when there are no profit centers mentioned for your document splitting rules, or via your, for example, for your document splitting accounts, you have not specified a particular profit center and you don't want the system to derive those accounts, profit centers for those accounts, then you can specify some constant profit centers. It's like saying for these set of accounts, use this profit center only. So you can do some kind of a constant setup also. That is where more towards the document splitting configuration. It's a bit more advanced. Again, this is more towards the FI module, but I'll quickly show you this transaction code now. So I'll type in FAGL3KEH here, execute the transaction. It'll ask me for my company code, so I'm going to enter my company code over here. And here you can specify from which account to which account and what's the default profit center here. So just click on new entries, specify individually accounts, or you can give a range also, and specify your admin or common profit center over here. Later you take in all the value from this profit center and allocate to the relevant product lines. So that's the purpose of having a default profit center. This at times if the system cannot derive a profit center. Let's briefly look at creating segments. segments, as we mentioned earlier, are a higher level reporting than a profit center, usually done for external reporting. And if you're required to do segment reporting only, you'll actually have to create segments. Segments can be assigned to profit centers. In our example, you saw how we have created 2 segments, light vehicles and heavy vehicles, and we have assigned them to the 2 profit centers each. So in the profit center master data, you specify the segment, so that way all the values, when they flow to profit center, it automatically flows to the segment as well. So let's create some segments, and we'll create the profit centers also, mention all the other profit centers, and we'll have a complete view. Then we can ready to do some postings and see the reports. Now let's look at defining a segment. Defining a segment is very straightforward. It's quite easy. Just go to enterprise structure, definition, financial accounting, and you come to define segment. It's a very easy transaction code. Just execute that, and then you can define the segments. All you have to give is your ID and a description. So I'm just going to call it new entries. So you can just specify the ID and the description over there. Segment is, of course, is another way of reporting. So I'm just going to call it S01. I'm going to call this light vehicles, and I'm going to put another segment S02. Call it heavy vehicles, and save the transaction. Press OK to continue for the transport request, and data is saved. It's very easy to define segments. Now in the profit center master data, you can update these segments as well. So let's just open another session, and in the SAP menu path, let's just update a profit center. So you go to accounting, controlling, go to profit center accounting, all the way down, scroll down, master data, profit center, individual processing, and change KE52. We'll go to a profit center now. Let's just select a profit center which we just created recently, P01, 01. Okay, this is the profit center. Now in here, in the segment menu, we need to update it. But I'm already opened another session here, so I'm just going to exit out this. Let me open the other session over here. I'm already in this session. Okay, so I have opened up the standard hierarchy session, so I'm just going to change here itself. Just go to segment over here, and I'm going to update the information. So this cars is going to be a light vehicle. So segment, you can see the option pops up now because we just created, and I updated in this profit center S01 as a segment. And you can save the transaction. It's already active. You can just activate it again if you want. And that's how you update. I'm saying OK. And that's how you update the information for segments in the profit center. So now by this light vehicles, you can do a reporting, and it's activated. So already you can see it's highlighted in, it's grayed out. That means it's saved. And you can exit the transaction. Now let's post some transactions for profit centers. So I'm going to use the transaction code FB70. That is, I'm going to for a customer invoice. So imagine I'm going to sell a customer different type of vehicles. I'm going to put FB70 here, and I'm going to select a customer ID from the system. Let's press enter to continue. And let's say I'm going to sell to Silver Lining Private Limited many different type of vehicles. 4092015. Just give some reference. Amount, we'll put the amount later. For now, we'll just put the text saying sale of fleet vehicles. So imagine this customer is a bulk buyer, and I'm going to sell a lot of vehicles for this particular customer. So GL account, I'm going to specify my revenue account, which is my sales revenue account. I'm specifying this 4 times because I'm going to sell all different type of vehicles for this particular customer. So I'm going to sell about 100,000 worth of dollars of cars. So I'm going to specify it over here in the profit center field. Let me select my profit center. Usually you'll be doing it via this transaction via sales orders, but sales orders more towards logistics module. I just want to quickly show you to do this via the finance module, so we can directly type in the entries and it'll be much faster to process. So let me see, my profit centers are coming over here. So I have about 5 profit centers. P001 is cars, motorbikes, P003 is vans, P004 is trucks, and PA01 I have created as a common profit center. And this is all the person responsible for these profit centers. So I'm going to select profit center P001. Then I'm going to type P002, P003, P004, and put different values over here. I'm just going to put 15,000 here, maybe 250,000 here, and 300,000 here. And then I'm going to add up the total here. So that's 3566. So it's 665,123. That's correct. Yep, got a tick mark here. Green mark means all the debits and credits are correct. And now let's try to save this transaction. Just have to click on post, and then you will get a message saying document was posted in company code Z123. Now let's try and see the information, the profit center reports. So there are many different type of profit center reports. Let me show you a new GL report, because you have a lot of drill down reporting with this. One of the new GL reports you can use is FAGLL03. That's a GL line item report. Here you can specify the GL account over here and just put all dates like this, and then execute the transaction. And this will show you all the entries made using this particular GL account, and you can see the profit centers also here. This you will not specify the profit center. These are some other entries we have defined without a profit center. But for the ones we have specified over here, you can see the profit center is coming in, and the segment is also coming in here also, because we in the profit center master data we have specified the segment, so the segment is also coming in. So for this profit center you can see $100,000 we have posted. For profit center 2 we have put like this, and so on. And if you run a segment report, you will see the total of these two. Now let's try and run a report for those. So one of my favorite reports is this report, S_PL0_864030. That is given by GL balances new. That's a new GL report. This also can do multiple ways of vertical and horizontal columns of different objects. We'll see how to run this report. Just execute this. I'll also add this to my favorites, so you can always go back to this report. Now for this report, you need to mention what currency you want to see it in. So I'm just going to specify use the company code currency or controlling area currency. I'll just use controlling area currency. Now I'll specify what company code I want to run this for my particular company code Z123. You can give more information by what GL account you want to see and so on. I'm just going to leave that blank and go all the way. And here you can actually run from different periods, from 1 to 12, that's for the whole calendar year, or just for one particular period also. I'm just going to run on this for the whole calendar year. And you can just click on classic drill down report and execute this transaction. And you will get an output looking something like this. Now this gives you all your total debits and total credits for your entire company code, and is displaying in Australian dollars. You can see these are all the GL accounts over here, the customer accounts, the bank accounts, and so on. But I'm concerned is with my profit center reports. So to look at the profit center report, what you need to do is to shift this GL account to the profit center field over here. So just click on this and then click on profit center again, and then you can see it by profit center now. Now these are my 4 profit centers, main ones: cars, motorbikes, vans, trucks, common, that is my common profit center, and you can see not assigned. So we did some general ledger entries without assigning a profit center, so those are coming under not assigned. So now you can see here how much are my total amounts for my cars. So you can see here cars profit center, you got 102,000 For motorbikes, you got 15,000, vans 250,000, and for trucks, you got 300,000. This is made up of all the entries. And these are all credit entries because it's revenue, and these are all debit entries. And you can even drill down to these line items also by double clicking and looking at the further lines. Now if you want to see by segment, so just click on Profit Center and click on segment. And now you can see the two segments over here, heavy vehicles and light vehicles. So light vehicle was a combination of both the two profit centers, that is the cars profit center and motorbikes profit center. So you're getting this amount here. And heavy vehicles is your combination of vans profit centers and the trucks profit center. And this is the not assigned profit center. So we did some initial transactions without assigning any profit centers. So that's what is coming over here. So in this report, you can see it by both segment level as well as profit center level. You can even create your old financial statements also the way you want it by balance sheet and P&L statement, and run that also by profit centers and segments. Now for your assignment, create some profit centers in the client. Before you start creating, you need to make sure the configurations are in place. That is to make sure that profit center accounting is active in the controlling area, as well as you must create the standard hierarchy first. After creating the standard hierarchy, you can create the profit centers. A very important thing is when you actually create profit centers, just saving them alone will not save the profit center. It will still be saved, but it will not be active. So you must always click on the match stick icon, which is like a small yellow stick with a red star at the top. You must click on that to activate the profit centers. Then only you can start making postings to those profit centers. Also create a few segments and assign these segments in the profit center master data. Then go back to your cost objects that you have created for your cost centers and internal orders, and in their master data update the relevant profit centers. Always make sure that you have created one profit center as a common profit center, which you can correct the common costs, and later you can allocate this to the other profit centers. Now this, of course, you will be doing it via the cost center cycles, and since cost centers are also mapped to profit centers, when you allocate those costs, it automatically updates and takes the cost from the common profit center to the relevant product profit centers. Then try and post some transactions. If you have updated all the cost objects with the correct profit center, you can post some expenses transactions, you can post some revenue transactions directly to the profit center. So you can see some of these transactions in your reports, and run some of the reports I just showed you now. Those two reports, you can pick one of whichever you want, and when you run those reports, you can see the values coming into the profit centers. And when you run those reports, you can see the values coming into the profit centers.